Welcome to Tuners Subaru Training Part 19. In this training tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at working with our idle control tuning. We're going to have a lot to cover. Let's jump into our tutorial so we can get started. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at working with our idle control programming in our Subaru applications. Our idle control programming is relatively straightforward. There's really not a whole lot we need to know. There's going to be some things we need to talk about though when we deal with a large injector or large cam or a combination of both in terms of our idle control programming and tuning. Let's jump in and take a look at where we can find our idle control specific tables, and then we'll talk about how to edit them based on the application that we're dealing with. The first thing I have loaded in here into my Tuners VCM editor software, I have a sample calibration file from our sample calibration file folder. So we can see the directory here is HPT Subaru Course, that's our folder, the subfolder sample calibration files, and then I opened up this particular file. We have a couple different file examples in that particular sample calibration file folder. I just selected one of them. Doesn't matter if your application's a WRX or STI, what we're talking about here will apply the exact same between either ECU, either vehicle. So let's jump in here to our engine tab, and we're going to move from our, we're in torque management right now. We're going to work our way over here into our idle tab. Now in the idle tab, we're going to find we have these 4 different tables here to program our desired idle speed. It is literally going to be as easy as programming where we want our idle speed to be at and the ECU trying to get us to that desired idle speed. We'll talk about how that happens and some things we need to note about that, but let's jump in here and talk about our base park neutral table. This is the base table that everything starts from in terms of commanding the desired idle speed. We're going to see in this table, it's a 2-dimensional table here. The left axis is engine coolant temperature, and then the right axis here, that's going to be what we actually want to have our desired idle speed at. Now we're going to be editing if we want to change our desired idle speed of where the ECU should target for that desired idle speed here on the right hand side. Now taking a look at this more specifically, if we see here 50 degrees in cooler inner engine coolant temperature, we're going to find that the values here are going to be much higher than a warm idle here. So 158 degrees and warmer, we're going to find our idle speed is 700 versus a cold engine where it's targeting 1500. Now the reason why we do this is that the engine has the viscosity of the oil being much thicker. That's going to create more of a frictional drag on the engine and have a torque loss. Also, the atomization of fuel spraying out of the fuel injector is poor on a cold engine. The combination of having poor atomization and a thicker oil that's going to have more frictional drag on the engine is going to create a torque loss. So we have this thing called idle torque. We'll discuss this here in just a little bit more detail in a couple more minutes. But we're going to find that the idle torque is very important because if we don't have enough idle torque, the engine won't idle at where we want to idle at. So if we have too little idle torque, we're going to idle real low. Too much idle torque, we'll idle real high. This is going to be essentially establishing and try to get us to gain some of that lost idle torque by commanding a higher desired idle speed to get the engine to warm up quicker, to get the engine oil to warm up quicker, to get the engine atomization a little bit better so the engine's running on a more warm intake manifold. That's going to allow the fuel injector to spray the fuel more efficiently. So all things to consider, we want to go and command a higher idle speed on a cold engine compared to a warm engine. So 158 and warmer, that's going to be our warm engine operation range. And then these colder temperatures, we're going to find that we have this higher idle speed. Now generally I don't edit or change anything here on the colder temperatures, but 122 and warmer, I might want to edit this. If you're on a stock EJ25 engine, in my personal opinion, they idle smoother when we have them idling at 900 RPM. Now, that's going to be really up to you if you want to change your desired idle speed there, but I find, even with just basic modifications, they run much smoother at 900. Now, in order to change that, in order for the ECU to actually target the new RPM range, we can simply just highlight the table here. We can put a value here of 900, we can do equals, and now we've changed our desired target idle speed to 900. Now the ECU is going to work its way to be able to get up to that desired idle speed, and we'll talk about how that happens in here in just a second. But what we want to do in this case is take our values here from our base park neutral table. This is the base table where everything starts from. We're going to copy these values, and we're going to jump into the rest of the tables here. So we can go in and just copy and paste across all of the other tables. Let's go here and copy and paste. And we'll find if we make them essentially all the same, everything will fall in line in terms of our desired idle. Now, let's jump back in here real quick. What I do want to talk about here is this idea of how the ECU is going to get to the engine RPM that we're targeting here. which is going to be the concept of the idle. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.